Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Anna Carugati, the Group Editorial Director of WorldScreen. I am absolutely delighted to be here, not only because the gentleman to my left is such an expert in his field, he's also a dear old friend.
So you promised to be easy on me as a result.
Yes, maybe. This is Stephen Davis. He has a very short title, so I'm going to try and get it right. Correct me if I'm wrong. Chief Content Officer and Executive Vice President of Hasbro, President of Global Entertainment and Licensing, and President of Hasbro Studios.
I have the largest business cards in the world. They fold.
All right, I think we want to start with a video that gives a bit of a taste of what all of those titles mean.
Yeah, so what you're going to see is just a kind of short little taster of some of the animation, recent animation that we've produced for television. About 60 seconds, I think. So why don't we roll tape?
Okay, so all great stories have a beginning, right? So Hasbro Studios was set up in 2009?
2009.
What was the goal? What was the remit back then?
Well, you know, Hasbro has so many great stories to tell. First of all, Hasbro has the privilege of owning over 1,500 brands. And we really wanted to have a platform to be able to tell those stories and frankly to be much more in control of our destiny as a production and distribution company. So in 2009, we started Hasbro Studios. Around the same time, we also invested in what was then, in the US, Discovery Kids, which was then rebranded The Hub, which was then subsequently rebranded again to Discovery Family. And we started to really expand our relationships with our digital partners as well. And then about 2 years ago, in the similar vein, we announced AllSpark Pictures, which is our own film label, which gives us, again, the opportunity to really control our destiny in film, as we have in television. And so we're now producing our own films, financing our own films. Controlling marketing and calendarization is such an important part of what we do across all platforms. So our ability to be able to really greenlight television through Hasbro Studios, greenlight our film through AllSpark really kind of completes the picture for us.
Okay, so given your many responsibilities, how do you view the children's market? Because 2009 to today, it's like 5 lifetimes in terms of technology and how children have changed in the landscape.
It's like faster than the Industrial Revolution.
Exactly.
I mean, it's really interesting. First of all, I will say, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart, everybody says this every year, I don't think there's a better time to be in the kids market than there is today. First of all, because you know, even compared to 2009, the number of platforms that are available to expose your content have never been larger. And frankly, the democratization of content, that kids are actually making their own content, I think has opened up an appetite amongst our core consumer base to want to seek out more content opportunities. And you know, again, because Hasbro is a branded play company, it has its heritage as a toy and game company. We call ourselves a branded play company. We bring play to life. Our core consumer is kids and families. So never a better time to take our brands and create great immersive entertainment experiences that are spot on where the consumer is today.
Right. Now, I imagine Hasbro is widely considered just a toy company, right? I mean, when people hear Hasbro, is that
it's
so?
It's a fair misconception that Hasbro is a toy company. I mean, the company was founded in 1923. So, we've...
And Hasbro stands for, I remember.
The founders, Hassenfeld brothers. So it's Hassenfeld brothers. Yeah.
See, I did my research.
Yes, and Alan Hassenfeld, who is the great-grandson, is still on our board of directors. So, yeah, it's still, although we're a public company, it's very much a family-oriented company, and it has its roots as a family-owned toy and game company. But clearly, we have evolved substantially. We put storytelling at the center of everything that we do, and that really is driving our strategy across the platform, the ecosystem that we're trying to create.
Right. Okay, so the market is quite competitive. Children have a million different entertainment options, different screens, different... what are the challenges in getting their attention? I mean, they're savvy. They know where to find what they want.
Well, and I think the other thing that has made it even more challenging is that kids are their own programmers now. They're not waiting to be told what to watch because their choices are so wide. They can find content on so many different platforms, and they want it when they want it. They don't want to wait for it. And, we've looked at that challenge as an opportunity. Again, it goes back to, the fundamental foundation for forming Hasbro Studios and Allspark Pictures so that we can ensure that anywhere where kids and families are engaging with content, they will see our content. Fit Artisan, Nina Scales, and their sales team spend a tremendous amount of time not only in the bricks and mortar sales of our content, but really understanding what's the next step for distribution? Where are kids? How can we ensure that we get that content in the hands of kids in the right way? And short form content, of course, is also changing the landscape considerably, and understanding that it's easy to say you're producing content that lives across all these platforms, but it really isn't all of that easy. And kids' attention span is short. So you have to ensure that the stories that you're telling engage them quickly. And because kids multimedia test, there's this great statistic that our research department did a couple of years ago that said that kids are actually bending time. They're multimedia tasking. They're consuming 11 hours of media in about 7 hours. That's because they are on multiple platforms at any one time. And you want to be sure that you're engaging them with that content on whatever platform they happen to be focused on during that 7-hour period.
Right, and they often have more than one. They often have more than one screen in front of them. Too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's a little scary.
It is really scary.
We won't go there.
It's the ADD generation.
10, 15 years ago, when children loved a property, okay, just to show how much things have changed, they were happy with a TV show on the linear channel, a DVD, and maybe a plush doll or an action figure to extend that fun time after the show was over. Mm-hmm. Today, it's a whole different universe. Yeah. What do they expect nowadays? And how does Hasbro satisfy their expectations?
Well, I think that kids expect to connect more simply, and I think that kids, because of the sort of digital generation, want to be more immersed in their connection with characters and with content. I mean, many of you will know the trend in our business on the retail side, toys to life, Disney Xfinity, our telepods. It's really taking both the physical and the digital and marrying the two so that a boy or a girl can have a physical doll or an action figure, but that action figure can actually live in a digital content-driven world, and that they feel as though they really are connecting with the play pattern, that they can determine the story. They can use digital and content to fantasize and create the stories that is the genesis for why any kid buys Pinkie Pie or Optimus Prime.
Right.
That was a good plug, wasn't it? Pinkie Pie, not yeah.
So we have to get there you have to get their attention. You have to get good product. You have to tell good stories. There's also a retail strategy behind what you do. The landscape has changed so much. How do you drive a consumer product strategy nowadays?
Coincidentally, I happen to have a slide. Can you throw that slide up? Nice. So this is Hasbro's brand blueprint. And as you can see at the center of our brand blueprint, we put storytelling and consumer insights. So the storytelling piece we kind of covered, and we'll cover a little bit more. Another really critical part of what we do is listening. We spend a considerable amount of time and resource in consumer testing, listening to our consumers, the things that they like and that they don't like, not only just in a general kind of industry standard, but we actually put our product in front of our consumers, we put our content in front of consumers, and we ask them the tough questions, and we listen. And it's interesting, Transformers Robots in Disguise, which you saw the clip of, was the second generation of Transformers, the animated series. It was originally Transformers Prime, and then we went into a new series. Our ID is a reflection of everything that kids liked and also didn't like about Transformers Prime. It's the first consumer-generated series that Hasbro has ever done, and that came out of a considerable amount of consumer insights. So between activating our brands through storytelling and the consumer insights that we get from boys and girls, moms and dads, we then effectively use that as our kind of tool in the arsenal to stimulate our toy and game business, our lifestyle licensing business, creating immersive entertainment experiences through digital, and the overall digital landscape. So we feel like that's kind of our secret sauce. The reason that we are so successful in creating this great content and consumer products ecosystem is that that's how we're activating our business and our strategy. Part of that too is obviously focusing on markets, developing and emerging markets, all of which get equal weighting with us.
Are there any questions from the audience at this point?
Somebody must have a question. Lifestyle licensing is effectively out licensing. Anything that relates to taking one of our brands and putting it effectively in the hands of a licensee. We have a brand called Gem and the Holograms, for instance, a movie that's coming out October 23rd. Please write that all down and go to the box office, buy a ticket, see it. We sort of seeded the market with Gem and the Holograms. It was a brand that we incubated in the 80s. It was very successful, and then we kind of rested it for a while, and we brought it back. So Gem is a great sort of coming-of-age story. We are not going to initially do a Gem doll, but we're going to use licensing, lifestyle licensing, to stimulate the blueprint that you just saw. We have licensees like Sephora who are doing a Gem and the Holograms makeup line. We have fashion and beauty licensees that will show the expression of Gem on t-shirts and on shoes. We have some consumable categories. So that's using licensing as a way to incubate your brand. Not all brands necessarily warrant initially or might not justify a toy play, although hopefully you end up getting there, but you don't always get there. So.
Would we also expect to see a new Transformers movie coming from all sources?
Well, you're going to see a new Transformers movie coming from Hasbro and Paramount and Michael Bay and our other partners. In fact, we just finished, which some of you may have read, just an incredible experience. We decided that we wanted to plot out the next 10 years of the Transformers franchise. And so we got together in a room over a 3-month period of time, 9 of some of the most creative writers I have ever worked with, shepherded by Akiva Goldsman, who many of you may know, won an Academy Award for A Beautiful Mind and written a bunch of really great movies. And they plotted out the next 10 years of Transformers. Similarly, we're doing the same in television and in digital. So stay tuned. Transformers 5 is on its way. And 6 and 7 and 8.
There's a question back there.
Hello, I'm Metsä Maria from Finland, from Sunny Night Productions. I've got a question about your testing with your audience. You said that you are testing the products, so could you please tell some brief examples of that? And then another question: do you do any testing with development, the characters? I mean, like, do you test, for instance, My Little Ponies, their colors or eyes, and if you do, so could you please tell me how you test it? That's interesting. Thank you.
Well, I don't want to reveal too many secrets, but testing of product and of content is really as simple as putting a demographic in a room, whatever that demographic is, whether it's preschool kids or tweens or moms or dads, and sometimes we put them all together. And we just show them lots of different expressions of the brand. In product, we show them different ways of presenting that product, different play patterns, the way that kids might interact with an action figure or a doll. And similarly in content, we show them some of our TV or filmed entertainment that have certain storylines and get their reaction. And sometimes they're brutally honest and they say, we don't like that character, or we don't like that color, or we don't really find this engaging on board. Hopefully, most of the time they say, it's fantastic, I love what you're doing. We listen to that too. But it's as important to listen to the criticism, the constructive criticism, as it is the accolades.
Yeah, there's a question. Anil Vanvari from India. Hi, very interesting. Where are the new ideas for toys coming? Where do they keep coming from? And because the kids are changing now, the way they are engaging. And so how are you working on the science of these toys?
It's a great question. I mean, listen, Hasbro has remained relevant because innovation is so important. And, first of all, you get a new generation every couple of years, so you have to remain relevant. And as I said earlier, the digitalization in the broadest sense of the word has also really challenged, in a positive way, but challenged our business. We actually have an innovation team. It's a fascinating group of people who literally spend 24/7 looking, thinking, listening, exploring, talking, experimenting, that really push all of us in both the consumer products and in the content side of our business to remain innovative and relevant. Actually, one of the best meetings that I go to once a month is an innovation meeting where they come in and just kind of expose us to all kinds of really cool new things, which we then use to influence the rollout of both our product and our content. A lot, a lot. You have to kiss a lot of frogs before you find your princess or your prince.
Okay, hang on to your questions because time is going quickly. I will get back to you. But first I want to ask you some of the new properties that Hasbro is coming up with.
Well, so many of you might know that My Little Pony, which is one of our most popular girls' brands, we're now producing, I think, our 120th. I'm looking at my guys in the audience, over 120 episodes. Really popular. We're coming out with the new season of My Little Pony, but what emanated from My Little Pony is another brand that's part of the pony world called Equestria Girls. I don't know, anybody familiar with Equestria Girls? Okay. So Equestria Girls, effectively takes the ponies into a somewhat human world where they see their doppelganger, their, equivalent in a human form. So the third movie was just released literally last week, right? Yep, last week. And we're now working on a fourth movie. We're looking at different ways of rolling that movie out, which is kind of exciting. We have a second season of Transformers Robots in Disguise, which we are going to be rolling out on Cartoon Network and then other platforms. So
125 episodes?
Over 120.
A lot of companies see 52 as their goal. How are you able to, go to that many episodes, and how do you keep a brand like that fresh? Yes, you do have new kids coming in, but what are the challenges in keeping it fresh?
Well, first of all, again, we have the privilege of having brands that have such great resonance with consumers, like Transformers, like My Little Pony, like Littlest Pet Shop. And because we have some of the best and the brightest storytellers that we work with in the business, we're able to obviously sustain those brands because we have this, as you saw in the brand blueprint, enormous expression of our brand. So we can support those brands with lots of content, which is really critical to keeping it front and center in front of kids and their families. But we're also incredibly considered about who we work with, and we really do work with some of the best, most innovative storytellers that help us to keep those stories alive so that, kids don't grow bored of them. And we're also looking at ways of presenting content differently. Linear's very important to our strategy, and digital is very important to our strategy, but the format of content, that traditional 22 minutes, which still remains kind of the lifeblood pulse of our business, we're looking at different ways of telling stories through short form, through immersive experiences, toys to life, other ways to tell stories that will engage kids.
You mentioned before the hub, which is now Discovery Family. How did the evolution of the network sort of reflect the evolution of the business? Because they do mirror each other, don't they?
It's really interesting, yeah. So I don't know that everybody would agree with this, but what I have found, having been in this business for a very long time, the one thing that has not changed is having a domestic broadcast network is very important to creating a globally appealing business for yourself, to be able to fully monetize it. Now, clearly, platforms like Netflix have done an amazing job of demonstrating that not all content has to go on broadcast, but we felt like we needed to be everywhere where a kid would be consuming content, and that included, as part of that ecosystem, a broadcast network. So when we initially got into the business, and I will say, when we bought then 50% of Discovery Kids, the digital landscape was very different. The streaming landscape was very different. Now, obviously, it's it's at the top. But at the time, it was important to us to have that anchor in the U.S. to help not only exposure in the U.S., but also give us broader exposure internationally. And so we've rebranded the channel. It's still the highest rated network for co-viewing, kids 6 to 11 watching with an adult 18 to 49. And it's still a very critical part of that overall ecosystem.
From a distribution perspective, so looking beyond the network in the United States and the OTTs in the United States, what are the challenges and where are the opportunities?
Well, look, I think the challenges and the opportunity are really one and the same, that the international market from a non-linear perspective has been somewhat behind the US, and now it is accelerating. And again, Finn, Nina, my phenomenal sales team spend a lot of time figuring out the content management, the rights management, the windowing of our content to be sure that we are putting that content in the hands of as many kids as we can. And that's the one thing, certainly over the last 10 years, that has become increasingly more complicated, but it's also presented tremendous opportunities for all of us. So.
Were there more questions?
Thank you. There was a presentation earlier on showing kids' favourite brands in various countries, and Candy Crush Saga was massive, and Minecraft was massive. And one of those doesn't have a story, and the other one doesn't have a story or characters. I wonder what you think when you look at some of those things coming from mobile that are very untraditional story things, and what it means for what you guys are doing and how you see the market.
Yeah, it's a very good question. So we are in the mobile gaming business, and Backflip, which is our mobile gaming company, has a very, very popular game called Dragonvale. Dragonvale, other than having a lot of dragons, didn't really have character and story, and yet it's very successful. I see those as platforms to create a bigger story universe. Minecraft's going to be made into a movie. It will be a hugely successful movie because mobile storytelling has kind of incubated that market, and it then creates a tremendous platform to blow that world out. Another very recent example for us is we own a game called Ouija. Anybody heard of Ouija? It's a spirit board? Yeah? Okay, it's a very popular game. But it's a game that doesn't really have a story. It's just about kind of your own self-seance. And we decided a couple of years ago that notwithstanding how successful that game is, we wanted to create, it was an opportunity to create a real story and characters around it. And so we made a movie with Universal, and it grossed $103 million globally, which was a huge success on a very small budget, by the way. And we're already in production on the second one. So not every brand requires a TV show or movie. Not every mobile game does. Not every console game does. But you know, those opportunities are there, and we love to take advantage of that if we can.
Any more questions?
So what's your current strategy right now? So for the toy and the contents, who start first? You start a toy or
It's a chicken and an egg
Yeah.
question. Yeah.
what's now?
yeah.
Because it was so various
Right.
platforms. What are you gonna do with it?
So, you know, interestingly, you know, again, the opportunity and the challenge for a company like Hasbro that has so many brands, clearly we're driven by our brand priorities. You know, we have our kind of franchise brands, we have challenger brands, we have vault brands. You know, some are marketed in different ways, some are marketed more significantly in different channels depending on what the brand is. I would say in our case, we're really supporting that brand blueprint with our great Hasbro brands. And in most cases, those brands either have or have had in the past a toy or a game associated with them. Now, not in all instances is that the case, but as a branded play company and as a consumer products and a content company, you know, we've got this great opportunity to marry the two. So clearly we're very focused on our brands.
Looking ahead, as children continue to be digital natives, because for how many years now, children being born are born into a world with
Yeah.
iPhones, iPads,
Right.
and everything else.
TV is, you know, TV is like Kleenex. It's just like the euphemism, right? It's the catch-all phrase for any screen or any
Exactly.
engagement with content.
Exactly. So they're digital natives. They are more and more media savvy, as we said before. They know how to find this stuff, even from a very, very young age. I mean, you have 2-year-olds who know how to swim.
Yeah, I read an interesting statistic the other day that over 42% of children under the age of 3 engage with either an iPad or a mobile phone for their primary source of content every day. It's crazy.
That's crazy. I saw a 2-year-old recently came to my iPad, not my iPad, my laptop, and tried swiping and got very upset that nothing was happening because they know exactly what
I find
to
3-year-olds to help me figure out my iPhone because
Yeah.
they really know how to do it. I don't.
do. Anyway, so we have this new environment, this new world out there, that has changed so much since you started in the business. And I'm not saying
In the
you're
dark
old.
ages.
No, I'm not saying you're old. You're very experienced. What does Hasbro, and not only Hasbro, what do children's content companies need to do to remain relevant? It's like kids are on this high velocity train going, and how do you get their attention? How do you remain?
It's about engagement and understanding that the generation of kids, you know, that we're engaging with do have so many choices, and you know, a relatively short attention span, which I think has probably become more acute as a result of the digitalization of our business, and that somebody said this in the earlier panel. I think the gentleman from HIT. Being authentic is really important. Consumers have very little tolerance for, you know, 22-minute or 72+ minute commercials. They really want to be engaged, and it's about great stories and about great characters and about understanding how you can be as relevant and immersive and engaged with a 3-year-old as you are with a 14-year-old, and that is a challenge in storytelling. But if it's something you set out as an objective, you can be successful, and I think, you know, our success is a testament to that.
Excellent. You have 40 seconds left.
Oh my God!
Any
all right.
any closing?
How about a
thoughts?
quick question?
Yeah, quick question.
Two
Anybody?
quick questions. Anything? Anybody? Yep. Just speak loud.
About speed to market, how do you move a property beating of
Yeah.
a child audience without compromising on quality? Thank you.
Right, yeah, no, it's a great question. And look, quality is number one, and frankly, although speed to market is too, I think quality has to be number one. But it's through the innovations group in part. We have a tremendous development engine that is constantly developing content, constantly developing product, constantly looking at how we drive licensing. Licensing in consumer products is often a very fast way to get to market. Toys to Life present a very fast way to create immersive, engaging experiences between the physical and the digital. Short form content is often more, speed to market, allows you more speed to market. But it is something that is really, really important for us to remain relevant.
All right. Well, I would continue, but I think our time has come to an end.
Oh, it's been so much fun. Thank you, everybody, for
Thank
coming
you.
out on a rainy Saturday.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.